Welcome to the Blah 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 Career Cast, where we dive into the real, raw, and sometimes ridiculous career stories of everyday people. I'm Jennifer Chenoweth, a wife, mom, Midwesterner, and career coach. Today's guest is Andrea Yacub Macek, a career coach out of Salt Lake City, Utah. She helps people go from career confusion to confident choices. And anyone who's coaching people in that phase of life, chances are they've gone through some things themselves. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with Andrea today. Let's dive in.
I will say I have a special place in my heart for Jennifer's. My twin sister is Jennifer. So
You're a twin?
I am a twin. So a lot of people don't know that. I am a fraternal twin. So that's a big part of my story. So fraternal meaning we don't look exactly alike. But that is a big part of my career story of finding my own identity in myself and of myself within myself. So Jen, if you're watching this, hi. Okay, so you asked me a big question. How did I get to be here in the current situation and current version of self and business that I'm in now? So I'll try to give the abbreviated journey leading up to this and what brought me here. So a big part of that is I'm a first generation woman. My parents are from the Caribbean. So like many other people, there was expectations of what my version of success should look like. So that should was put on me at an early age. And I will be honest that I had to come to my own understanding of that and remove that. And that was a process of self-discovery and a lot of emotion throughout childhood. And I'm not mad at them for it. I will say that that's taken a lot of growth for me to not have frustration or anger around that. But for a long time, I lived in fear of that expectation of not meeting the expectation. So my entire career and early on was built on that expectation of becoming a doctor, which is what they wanted. And many parents have a version of success that makes them feel safe, that they put on their children, whether intended or not. So that's where I started, and then went into college with that expectation heavily on my shoulders and thinking that was the only way I could be successful. I didn't really have a lot of experience outside of that, because also growing up, the circle of friends I was in, a similar expectation was put on them. And I grew up in a white suburban neighborhood in Florida, middle class families. So I actually didn't have a lot of examples of people that looked like me either. Okay. That's a whole nother story, but which was not a problem for me, but also identity came into play later on in life. So my entire circle of friends were incredibly high achieving, very competitive. We were all gunning for medical school, law school, like whatever the case may be. So that group of friends went with me to college. So I also was scared to break that expectation and break away from the pack and want to do something different. But internally, from a kid, that expectation made my skin crawl. Like I did not want to be a doctor. I knew I wanted to be a helper. Helping was always in me. But I didn't know what other versions of helping I could do or what I could be. So I just kind of stayed in the box of that I was put in. I was always the child who friends would open up to and pour their heart out to, would come to when another friend had hurt them or wanted advice, or they didn't know what to do about their grades or what their teacher, or so I was always the mama bear of the group from a young age. Friends would confide in me and trust me to support them through decision making. I didn't recognize that until later in life, which is why I'm a coach now. But that theme was very prevalent from honestly as early as kindergarten or even earlier. It was very obvious. My parents would always not be surprised when a new friend was waiting with me after school. So I'm like, hey, this friend is coming over. And I was always the one to pull in the person who was hurting, who needed to be heard, who was going through a problem, was fearful. Like I was always that person to support. So that's how I knew. But again, I only knew the path of a doctor to help. And I was like, well, okay, and then I guess I have to do this. So I begrudgingly declared pre-med as a major. And I started to get an inkling of self and finding my voice after my first semester of college. And I've always been a very outspoken woman. But I was always scared to break the expectation. after that first semester of college, and I remember going to my parents and telling them I was going to withdraw from pre-med and that I could no longer do it. I was failing my classes. I was miserable. I did not want to be at school. And I was like, this is not what I just worked my ass off for, the last how many years to go into college and be miserable. Like, I don't want to do this. So my mom was, I think, more okay with it than my dad. But I had to find my own path. So after that, I found a little bit of freedom in myself and started to come into my own even more, and still stayed with psychology. So college, it's like I always liked people, so psychology was my major, and went on. And I'm also very savvy and resourceful, and paired with my ability to connect and meet others where they're at, I networked within college and found a visiting professor who was teaching a course on business psychology, and was able to take his class. I got permission to take his class and opened up a whole world for me of possibility for a career. And from that course went on to get my master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. So IO business psychology, and did that. So kind of put myself in a new box of trying to figure out problems, but the box had also expanded. I was no longer only looking at healthcare. I was able to expand that vision into business, into a bigger playground for me, into working in a corporate office and doing all these things. So I kind of switched from like one dream to the other. It was like, oh, climb the ladder, do the thing, get the suit, have the sexy travel job, do that. So that became the new expectation of myself. My plan out of graduate school was to get the sexy travel job as a consultant, but nobody was hiring. Every job that I could imagine wanting that aligned with the experience I was coming out of graduate school with was not available. And I had to really figure things out. So through the power of networking, I found my first job and I landed in higher education. And it was the best job I never knew I wanted, and was an amazing fit for me, helping people make decisions about their life, about their careers, and making sure they were being heard. So that job planted a seed I didn't know needed to be there in terms of career development and coaching and supporting people in careers. Cracked my world wide open, and I only left that job for money. To be honest, I was living in Chicago, and I needed to make more money to live. And I ironically ended up back in healthcare. The healthcare job was out of alignment for me. What became an alignment for me in that job was all the time developing my team. I was already working 80-ish hours, 90 hours a week at that job, but I would still stay after work, coming on weekends, and coach my staff. I would coach them to develop and grow, get promoted. Many of them left my team because they got promoted. I'm like, yes, go, grow. Like, I want you to succeed. I felt like it was a joy and a responsibility to support my team and to grow them. And I got to know them as individuals, and I loved my team that I had managed. And it was fun for me to help me grow and get visible and create engagement and alignment in my job, right, to do that. And then before I knew it, I was building career development programs and training programs for my company. That wasn't even a part of my job. Don't recommend. Make sure you get paid for that. But exactly. I did get recognized for that, and it really helped me down the road. But so I guess the whole theme of the career that I didn't realize was happening was I had touch points to the part of myself that was inherently me. I was helping people make decisions, take action, really understand who they are, and then create a career around that. I've worked in healthcare for almost 10 years, not as a doctor, but had the best bosses, had the best teams for the most part, and only left because I was extremely burnt out. Went to another company and then found myself in a position where it was not a good fit. I was kind of moving towards a target that I didn't realize I was going through the motions of everything, and was miserable more than I was happy. And I was like living for the weekends, like just waiting for the Friday, waiting for the thing, but checking the boxes, getting the promotions, getting the pay raises, getting the titles, getting the corner office, the whole thing. And was like, my soul was dying on the inside. And I know so many people listening can relate to that. So I had unintentionally lost myself completely in my career path of building a career. So while I was like trying to break free of the expectation that my family had given me, I then unintentionally kind of covered it up with another one and didn't really understand I had done that until I did. My coach at the time, I had a coach at that time, she had said, I think it's time. I think it's time that you think about coaching full time. Like, you've been doing this for 10 years without getting paid and you love it and you're great at it. Your staff is getting amazing results. She's like, you need to do this. So I did. 6 weeks after I got laid off, I filed the LLC for my business, not knowing what the hell it meant to start a business or to become an entrepreneur, and no idea what I was getting myself into. And my husband, bless him, of all of 30 days, was like, we've known each other for a long time at that point, but he was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we've taken it in 3-month blocks ever since then. And here I am 5 years later, and it is the best gift ever to be able to support other women to wake up from their own sleepwalking journey and find themselves again, and really know that they don't have to compromise or lose themselves to create
And I
success.
can't help but see the sign that's on your
Yeah,
shelf behind
on
you.
my shelf.
Stop
Yeah.
shooting and start doing. What does that mean to you? Why is that sign important to have displayed behind you? Because I know you had mentioned early in your story
Yeah.
the shoulds from your family, the shoulds from your culture, the shoulds from your upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's
All
important?
of those reasons. And I think also inherently, because I focus on women and in careers, it's women, we're too socialized and too practiced at shoulding all over ourselves for all of those reasons, right? Of what I should be doing, what my friends think I should do, what my family thinks I should do. There's just too many shoulds. And so it's a reminder to myself as well that, we don't have to, subscribe to those expectations. And it's important that we evaluate that and really understand what's important so that we don't lose ourselves in that.
Everyone needs to hear that message, because those shoulds and those people who are giving us those shoulds often have never walked in our shoes. And so
No.
most of those
Excuse
shoulds
me.
come from a place of, I want to keep you safe.
Yes.
And they are very well-meaning. But they ignore all of the things that are inside of us innately. And you call them, these universal moments of like doors open for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're tapped into your inner knowing too. There's this wisdom that you learned at a very young age of like, I just like helping people. And I think there's a lot to be learned from just examining those moments in life. And there's this historical wisdom that you can look back at to say, gosh, I was doing this when I was a kid. I've always loved helping people. And I think by design, the universe puts us in this timeline, in this space, with a gift to do whatever it is that each of us is equipped to do. And I'm
I
so
would agree.
thankful that you found
Thank you.
yours, and that you've bravely championed ways to continue to be a helper for people.
Thank you for tuning into this conversation with Andrea. Her story tells us we're practiced and socialized to be shoulding all over ourselves. And her story tells us you don't have to compromise or lose yourself to create success. Thanks so much for joining.